So this one's going to be a little different. This is going to be a review, but this is going to be a two-part review. First part, no spoilers. Second part, which will be up very shortly after, spoilers. So, kind of a spoiler, but not even a spoiler. If you know this shot, you know it's what changes on the opening screen for The Last of Us Part 2 when you beat the game. I finally beat it a few days ago and had time to process it. So we'll get to that part later. But first we just want to talk about the game itself. Now, The Last of Us is my favorite game. I did that video a week or so ago talking about your guys' favorite games. And I had to mention, of course, my favorite is The Last of Us. I love an open world. Well, it's not even open world. I love a post-apocalyptic game. I love zombies. It is just something else. The story, everything. But we're talking about Part 2. Part 2 took everything that Part 1 did and it built on it, made it better, built up the gameplay. Not without faults. There are a couple issues, and we'll have to dance carefully between this one and the other review, but we're mainly focusing on the game itself. As a whole, it's awesome. I love the game. The ending is, again, no spoilers here, interesting. And how we get there is interesting. But just the gameplay is just, it's everything the first one was, but better. They enhanced so many little details. Just the customizing of your weapons. The visuals are, the game is just pretty. The environments are awesome. The storytelling is still just so good. How the first one ended with its story, with that speech between Joel and Ellie. And if you haven't played the first one, well, that ain't really a spoiler. It's just them talking. The ending of this one, and just, yeah. But again, that's spoiler territory. We ain't talking there. The game itself is just awesome. And I love the crafting system that they've tweaked it a little bit. I love the weapon customizing and how you actually do it at a bench and you're seeing the character use different elements, and we'll get into that in a second. Just like how they're customizing their guns is awesome. And just the environment. The one thing I do like is they added a couple new enemies, both human and non. In the first game, we had a couple human enemies, like your whatever rioters, scavengers, whatever you want to call them, just people, different ones. But it was either people or infected. And in the infected, we had runners, clickers, bloaters. I think that's it. I can't remember any new ones. This game had those three, but then we also added stalkers, we added shamblers, and we added kind of a boss in one part of the game. But we'll get into that in part 2. What else I want to talk about with this game this is going to be the shorter version because I'm really trying not to spoil anything. I'm just trying to say the gameplay is awesome. I love just how you navigate the environment, being able to go prone, how you aim while you're prone, how you can still move while aiming, and like just how they compensate for it. I keep saying they. Without spoiling it, there's 2 characters. And, well, there's 3. There's Joel, there's Ellie, there's somebody else. That's going to be for another day. But these 3 characters can all have combat in the same way. The 3rd character does have elements of Ellie from the first game where they don't have a knife. You actually have to craft shivs for a lot of things. But this game did add stealth kills for all 3 of these characters. And being able to sneak up on enemies, both human and not, and just being able to take them out with either with a knife, with a shiv, or even just with your bare hands. The game added some good environmental kills. The combat just flows. The countering system, how you parry, especially against some of the big heavies, which is another thing. They added these heavy human enemies that carry like sledgehammers, fire axes, some big, big weapons. And having to fight them is a little bit of a challenge. But it's just this whole element and everything they added into it. Like, the game is just so good. I enjoy it. I can see why a couple people might be a little bit iffy about it, why some of the reviews from mainly fans, not even fans, just people, rather than like established editors, reviewers, whatever you want to call them. The game is it's just good. It's pretty. It's good. And like, this is going to be so short because there's so many things I want to say, but I can't say right now. That's going to be part 2. How this game ends, without spoiling it, this is the non-spoiler part here, mirrors part of what I love so much about the first game. Last of Us Part 1, Last of Us, had an ending that did not need a sequel. I do not think it needed a sequel. There was a little bit of room for it, but there was no need for it. And when they released that DLC, the DLC was a prequel about how Ellie got infected. So I thought that was awesome. With that said, this game came out. This game, where I said you didn't need a sequel, this one did not tarnish anything from that first one overall. Like, it's not amazing because of a couple things that I'll get to a little bit later, but the game itself just built on what was already established and uses a lot of flashbacks mixed with modern times, mixed with points of view, and just kind of splicing it all together. But where I'm getting at with this final point here, and I hope this is the final point because I don't know. Short video. This game, Last of Us Part 2, ends in a manner that doesn't need a sequel. I said that about the first one. I don't know if there ever will be a Last of Us Part 3. It is way too early to tell that. Who knows what Naughty Dog's up to next. I'm very excited to see what they're up to because I love the Uncharted series and I love The Last of Us Part 1 and 2. So this game ended in a manner where you don't necessarily need a sequel. But I said that about the first one, and look where we are. So, all that said and done, in the non-spoiler, dancing very carefully around, I got one more thing. We're going to have one more thing. We were talking about enemies. We were talking about there's human enemies, there's these juggernaut bigger enemies. We talked about a couple different types of infected. I just ramble. Deal with it. They added dogs. Now, maybe an animal lover. There's this field of gray there because I can understand in some video games the need, not even the need, but I will never condone animal violence, but when a dog is trying to tear my head off, I don't know. It's a video game. I felt bad, and there's one part I really felt bad about, but digressing. They added dogs. The only reason I really want to talk about the dogs in the non-spoiler version is they, with the human counterparts as enemies, are able to track you. That's a new feature that was really interesting. And in some of these the environments are bigger too. In some of these areas where you're trying to strategically take out enemy, having to incorporate this dog that can sniff you out is a whole extra little essence of like, oh crap. So, all that together, Last of Us Part 2 in the non-spoiler review is good. Is really good. If you haven't played it, I highly recommend you do. Do you need to play the first one? You kind of do. You really do. You don't need to, but you need to, and you just should. They're both good. I love both of them. Will they ever make, again, going back to will they ever make a third? I don't know. I think Neil Druckmann, the main guy behind all this, this is his vision that has shapeshifted to this. I think he said he has no plans for any DLC for this one. Thinking about that aspect of it, can I think of it anywhere where DLC would matter? Not really. Unless you want to add another point of view, but you really don't need to. We already have 3 points of view. The only sequel I could ever see happening, and it's a field of gray again, is if they I don't know, if they would have to move on from Ellie's story and just embrace a different view. I've always had this weird thought of they should make another game called The Rest of Us or something, where it's a whole different view, but it'd be really hard to capture the same essence and the same character dynamics if you're having following some soldier or something. This game lives and breathes and dies by these characters and just how much you care about them. So that all said and done, I think I've rambled enough in the non-spoiler version of this. If you don't care about spoilers, watch the next video. It will be clearly labeled. If you do care about spoilers, well, don't watch it. Play the game first and then maybe watch it down the road or whatever. I don't care. But let me know what you thought about this game in the non-spoiler version. But we'll be breaking down a few things in another video that's going to be right now, but not now, because this one's got to end first. Until then, you just got to be safe. You got to be kind. I'll see you next time.